Hello dear ones, welcome to this new video, welcome to this new series called ABARTH Pocket Rocket. What are we going to do in this series? Very simply, we'll tune up my ABARTH and test the performance before and after. The changes will be primarily on the engine, but we'll also make some aesthetic modifications. By engine, I mean maybe, I don't know, a better setup. I already have 1,000 ideas in mind, so be ready to see some good ones. In this first episode, you'll see some simple modifications and the initial tests obviously carried out on roads closed to the public. Then we'll start ramping it up. These very first clips I'm showing you now are a bit old. I decided to start this series practically last summer, but I got caught up with 1,000 other series, so I put this one aside for a moment. But I've already got some episodes ready to go, so let's get started. Today we're still at Teo's, but without the BMW. In the meantime, I'll show you a couple of the cars still hanging around here. This is my head, this is the mirror. But let's get back to discussing why we're here with my ABARTH. I'll show you the engine compartment directly. Here's Teo at work. We're still in our summer clothes, let's face it. I don't know if you realize what's missing. So once upon a time there was a little tube here. What is this? Is it the right recirculation one? Yes, accurate recirculation. It goes to the air filter, that's right, it goes through there and should go back there, to the pop-up. Exactly. But we're now over there. Let's do it like this. Now let's apply a filter. Show off the brand that... You'll think it has nothing to do with it. In reality, that's the case, but it's no problem. The important thing is that it filters, but the red is also nice. And now how many more horses do we have? 20? In reality, absolutely nothing changes. It's good. Is it good? It's good and makes a psst sound. So it's more about the heart of the driver than anything else. Now all that's left is to go around acting the fool and making the psst sound. Let's explain its purpose though. Besides the fact that it's cool because you feel the car snorting, the main function is to prevent the turbo from getting stressed out when it's under negative pressure. As I mentioned earlier, other series took priority, but we've now arrived at this point with these shots. Very good friends, I'm very happy to have started this series of modifications on my ABARTH series, which rightly includes tests with the original or near original car as now and then comparative tests. After getting your hands on the changes from there are quite a few to do, in the sense that already in episode 2 we're going to tweak the engine to have more power further on. Obviously we will have to touch up quite a few things on the engine, like the setup, which is very important. The brakes then, there will be an aesthetic part, and who knows, probably it could also be that the IA turbine that we mount now might be too tight and we should get a bigger one and more efficient. How is the car now? Well then, let's say this is precisely thanks to the IH, which is a small turbine. The car suffers very little from almost zero turbo lag putting into sport. Let's say that you can already have fun and the car responds well already from low levels, and then up more and more, obviously the pressure begins to decrease, and it is useless to take it beyond a certain point because it is exactly what it is anyway, a turbo and non-aspirated car. Having a larger turbine instead, plus it would be the opposite.
it would not be very strong. But then when the turbine starts hitting, the other turbines that can be used are the Garrett GT1446, which is the one that was mounted and still comes today, mounted on slightly higher performing models such as Competition 02 Cedar now, but they also mounted on the Tourism when I obviously didn't buy it, and the TD04, as we say it, is the most used to reach very high horsepower, being an original car. In my opinion, the setup should be done, but not only for an aesthetic matter, which in fact is a little high for a sports car, and so definitely it will be nicer to see her lower, but also precisely for a motivation of stability. The car is very reactive there. He enjoys throwing himself into corners, but he suffers a bit of understeer, and this is also due to the fact that it doesn't have a real mechanical differential. It doesn't have a real one, mechanical self-locking, and has a little too much roll and pitch. However, it is typical of many original setups, so we will stiffen it a bit and we will obviously get through it, and then by strengthening the engine we will have need to improve the brakes for the rest too. The car is really a lot of fun. I have always recommended it. I think maybe ABARTH should also give me a moment, because so many people have written to me that they have bought one 500 ABARTH. After seeing it in my videos, after having heard what I thought about it, so I'm very proud of this thing. It is a very fun car, but it is a machine that needs to be modified. Well, dear ones, we have a chamber positioned there, a chamber positioned on the exhaust, and a chamber positioned on the turbo pressure and also on the speedometer. We will use an app with GPS to check the 0 to 100, then the constant acceleration, which in my opinion is more important than the 0 to 100, because the 0 to 100 can be different based on many factors, such as today it is cold, the wheels will slip, so we will lose seconds. Then there is also the skill in starting without letting the tires slip too much, because I will remove the controls, the skill in changing gears quickly. So if we want to actually see the difference from the car with the changes it has now, which I will list, and the changes we will make in episode 2 in 3. In my opinion, the fundamental data is not so much the 0 to 100, which we will calculate anyway, but the acceleration constant, which you will obviously find in overlay graphics via the app we will use. The car currently has very few changes. One can say that it is almost original. We only have a larger intercooler, which was installed mainly to prevent the car from losing power on very hot days or after many beatings, because the system overheats and the turbine no longer performs as before. With a larger intercooler, we may have more constant performance, but it doesn't mean that the car delivers more horsepower. The feeling is that compared to an original, it goes for more, but we don't actually know how much. Then obviously we have the silicone pipes from the intercooler, intake, etc. And we only have the filter, the one we have just mounted, which vents the pressure of the turbine and does not change performance. ABARTH claims a 0 to 100 time of 7.4 seconds for the 595 Turismo. I repeat, today I don't know what will come out of 1,000 things. Another thing that changes the 0 to 100 a lot are tires, and I think I've told you everything. Let's go do this test. I forgot to mention that there's also a small mechanical alteration performed by Teo, which increases the turbine's pressure. Hence, it should exceed an original ABARTH's performance. You can definitely feel it. Indeed, the results are impressive. We managed 0 to 100 in 7 seconds, nearly half a second less than ABARTH's claimed speed, while the time between 60 and 130 kilometers was 6.9 seconds. I'm satisfied, and let's see what happens after the changes. I'd like to present my final scores as if this was a Drive and Tell 2.0, a series which I hope you're keeping up with on the channel, and if you haven't, start right away is my advice. Speaking about scores, I'm giving the engine a 7 out of 10 points currently. The performance is sound, but like many original maps, in my opinion, it needs a slightly more aggressive output. In my view, with the original setup, the handling is a 7.5. It's quite fun, but I would prefer less rolling and pitching.
for me, the overall experience is a 9. The joy of driving this little rocket is truly singular, especially thanks to the excellent sound from the original. Therefore, the average final score of these 3 aspects is 7.8. I'm confident that with a few tweaks, this score will rise significantly. Naturally, I will aim to be as fair as possible in my evaluation, even though I've adored this car for a long time, even before I brought it home from the dealership. It's already been 3 years. Thank you for being with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode where we'll explore the new modifications and performances together. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.